throughout. So, and really, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information, give you an opportunity to ask any questions you might have. And I think I mentioned in our parent letter, we will do a much more extensive parent meeting later as we get closer to the beginning of the school year. We kind of have a back to school letter. We probably will run two, one down in this area and one over the Father North, just so people have an opportunity to do that. But and in that meeting, what we will do is get much more into detail about things to expect for the upcoming year. But I do like to give parents a little bit of information about just what to expect in Blue Ridge in general. So we've talked a lot about this today. So I'll kind of start off just a little bit with introductions. We have, as I think most of you know, most of the staff at Blue Ridge are people from the local schools. So teachers who teach in the program. We work with counselors at the local schools. So there's not a lot of central Blue Ridge staff, but we do have myself as the director, Mrs. Oppen is our technology person, and so she helps a lot, not only with the actual physical technology, in terms of the fact that we put computers in each of the schools for students to use, but also she helps with the instructional side of the technology. Mr. Reynolds in the back there is our online computer science instructor and online course coordinator, and we actually are adding a lot of online courses to the program as opportunities for our students in the next couple of years. So he's doing a lot of that. We also just had started with us today, is not here now. Ms. Bonovich is going to be our administrative assistant, so she helps out with a lot of logistics and things like that. So if you ever need to get a hold of us, I was just showing this to students. One thing that's a really good thing to do, if you need to get a hold of us, is to go to our website at brvgs.k12.va.us. And there is a contact BRVGS, and that will send an email actually that goes to all of us, goes to our entire central team. So if you would need to get a hold of us. This is also a place where we put a lot of information about current events, some of the things that are happening. If you want to see some of the things that are going on in the program, and a lot of times we'll send out notices. Also in terms of parent communication, and communication with parents and students, when we have things like courses and stuff, a lot of times what we'll do is email that out to students and then send out like a postcard notifying parents that email is going out to students, because a lot of times there's lots of details and links that students need to follow to register for those opportunities. And so the best way to do that is to email the students directly, but we try to let the parents know that those are out there as well. That's a little bit about our communication stuff. So a couple of things about, and we talked a lot with our students about this, as an above and beyond program, as a governor school program, we're going to do a couple of things, and I'm not going to read all of that stuff, but this was just recently adopted. We go through every on a regular basis and kind of look at what is the purpose of this program as something that is an above and beyond, is meant to be an above and beyond opportunity for students in our high schools. Really, our biggest thing is we want to, first of all, provide our students with challenging and different kinds of instruction. We do a lot of interactive problem solving, high-level instruction, high-level learning opportunities for our students, a lot of individualized learnings. I was talking with students today about the fact that as seniors, they will do completely individual senior internship community service projects that will be whatever topic they are interested in. And they are all over the map. And we're working with our rising seniors right now to kind of get on board with some of those topics. So those are big things that happen. And we want to do this through collaborative learning, through technology. We want to provide the kind of rigor that's going to challenge students really at a high level. We also want to provide the support that's going to help prepare them. So we put a lot of thought into this. We've been working many years on our curriculum with our teachers and with the tools that we have to find the best ways we can to have students learning through problem solving, learning through teamwork, learning through things like public presentation, organizing, all of those things. A lot of questions we get is, how does this do for college? And how does this do for college acceptance? And talking with students today, we're getting our data in from this past year's seniors, but we know that we had 2 students that went to Yale, one Harvard full ride scholarship. We've got U.S. Naval Academy. We've got a student going to Duke University on school with a full ride scholarship. We've got tons of students in Virginia State schools, as always happens at Tech, UVA, Christopher Newport, JMU, VCU. Our students do very well for college acceptance. But the big issue for us, and this is where we really, what we think about all the time, is are we going to have to prepare when they get there and prepare them the the skills that they're going to need, because it's an entirely different, and those of you who have older students who've gone off to college, you know it's an entirely different environment than a high school environment. So we want our students to be ready for that. So we focus on a lot of aspects of that. So things to be aware of. In focusing on this, we require a rigorous course level. So in our graduation requirements for the students that are coming in next year, we have our core courses, which are the world history course, 1 and 2 courses that they'll take in 9th grade. They have a AP biology course that they will take in 10th grade. They have a choice of courses, computer science, engineering, a couple of other courses that we've been able to add, a choice of courses at 11th grade, and then the senior internship course in 12th grade. We are trying to add as many opportunities so that our students can explore things like medicine, we mentioned engineering, physics as a possibility. So that's one thing as parents for you to be aware of, that we will try to get that information anytime we have a new course coming online for us. We also require students to take local advanced placement and dual enrollment courses, and a lot of most of our students do that without any problem whatsoever. The counselors know the 4-year plans for students, what they should look like. We have a number of students that graduated in the past couple of years with both associate's degrees, with 60 hours of college credit, and with a Blue Ridge Governor's School seal. So it's not hard for our students to be able to do that. But I will say to this, and particularly if this is your first child going into high school, you're going to find it's going to be different, and it starts to ramp up in terms of the rigor. And a lot of students who have never received anything less than an A in their school experience are going to find kind of challenges that sometimes that won't be the case in high school. That's a good thing. Actually, it's a really good thing at times. And part of what we try to help students with is, how do you problem solve? How do you figure these things out? How do you communicate with your teachers? And how do you communicate with us so that we can figure out the right kind of support for you when you do get into an academic difficulty? Because if you don't hit an academic difficulty, head off to college, you're going to get woken up there. So we try to make sure that students are experiencing that kind of rigor in them while they're here, but again, with the kind of support that will help them be successful. One of the things that will happen here is that we will give students, when we start the school year, we give them a handbook. One of the students today said, "You guys have a handbook? We're a school. We have certain rules and expectations." So those will go home, and we'll have parents sign those. They need to be returned. But we've a lot of stress on the honor code. Again, we help students a lot to try to learn those expectations. One of the things that we do, Ms. Alp talked about it with students today, is we use a tool called turnitin.com. Turnitin.com is a tool that tells you how much of a paper they compare it to all the papers out there, anywhere on everything that's been written that's out there on the web, and how much of it is original. And we don't use it as a gotcha. We don't put it out there and say, okay, turn this in. Okay, we caught you. You got 30% that came from somewhere else. What we try to do is use it to teach students, because they can submit a paper, they can see how much of it is original, they can correct the paper, and they can continue to do that until it's at a level that we find acceptable, and then turn it into us. And through that, students learn how to properly cite their sources and how to paraphrase in a way that won't get them in trouble with possible plagiarism. So we use a lot of things like that, again, trying to teach students how to meet the eye. Our grading scale, I think it's pretty much in line now with all of our localities, but just so that you're aware, Blue Ridge classes do have Blue Ridge has its own grading scale. I think everybody's is pretty close to the same now, but several years ago it was not. So we had situations where, like, say, in one school district, a 93 was a B, and in one school district, it was an A. So we said for Blue Ridge classes, students in Green or Madison or Goochland to get the same grade, numerical grade should be getting the same letter grade. So we went to a central grading scale. So that's something to be aware of. And you may see a numerical grade and go, well, that's not what that should look like at our local school. This is for the classes that we specifically teach, the ones that I mentioned just a minute ago. That's going to be the grading scale they're going to be working with. This is something we spent a lot of time talking to students today about, and that is teamwork, group work. We do a lot of collaborative activity. And we hear a lot from students, from former students who, one of the things we spend a lot of time at UVA, because we got several partnerships kind of going on there. We use their library for research. We constantly see people who graduated from the program there, and we always kind of grab them and say, okay, what did we teach you that really helped you be prepared for college? And one of the things they always talk about is teamwork. Because many of the projects that are assigned at college level now are team projects. So we spent a lot of time talking about that and working on that today. Students did really well with that. one of the things to know about that as a parent is if your child is in a group project and you hear from your child, well, so-and-so in my group is not doing anything, and you feel like and your child is carrying all the water for that team project, somebody needs to know. The teacher needs to know. We need to know because we will help. Again, we'll support that. We try to teach team skills. We actually do a lot of that. We try to, all the groups have expectations and contracts and things like that. But sometimes it still happens. So we need to know because what happens sometimes is we get a call after the project. Well, my child got a C on this project and it was somebody else's fault because they didn't do the work and we never knew about that. So we have to know early to intervene. So that's where parents can really help out with that sometimes. Field trips, we'll do usually about 2 or 3 field trips a semester. Field trips in Blue Ridge policy are not considered optional, but we do understand that students have lots of things going on in their lives. So we're certainly willing to work with students. But a lot of the trips are parts of our big project pieces that we do. So students who don't make the trip don't know a lot about what's going on. They haven't established connections with their teams. A lot of times they have. So we will expect students to be on. What I tell students is, if you're a member of an athletic team, we'll back up for a second. Most of the field trips take place during the school day. Students will be back before school is over. But we have some trips, and particularly this year, students will be going to Washington, D.C., probably both semesters. Those trips usually get back around 5:30 or 6. If there's a conflict, the student has a game, they have a drama, a show that night, we understand we'll work with that. If they're sick, obviously, if you have a family emergency, we'll work with that. If a student says, no, I've got baseball practice, that's a different thing. This is a curricular piece. We do expect students to be there. We try to make it worthwhile from a curriculum standpoint. So these are critical pieces that we do try to do. So when you hear about the field trips, that's something that we do expect students to show up. And if there's a reason that they should, that they have a conflict that they need to miss for some reason, just make sure that it's being communicated to the teacher, and that teacher can work with me, and we can work with you on how to excuse that. Again, I mentioned we offer kind of a range of courses, particularly when students hit like 11th to 12th grade. So you got a couple years on this, but it's actually starting to expand a little bit more. And it's something that we're working on quite a bit is to bring in more offerings. Right now, we currently have 2 courses from UVA that we bring in engineering and digital media and technology. We have an archaeology program that we've been working with over in Orange County and with James Madison University. We have courses coming in from this year from Radford University in cybersecurity. We have online advanced placement courses that we do in skills. So we're bringing a lot of stuff in. We're hoping to bring medical and chemistry courses in, physics, potentially leadership as a class. Several things we're hoping to do, and we're configuring to set up and working with colleges and universities. So something to be aware of. The other thing is that a lot of our students are able to take advantage of summer opportunities. So a lot of times students will contact me. It'll be something that I didn't even know about. There'll be a program at Johns Hopkins or somewhere else and say, is this something Blue Ridge can support? And if we have money at the end of the year, we usually do, we're able to use that money to help support students in those activities. As long as it's something we can say, yeah, that relates to what our overall curriculum goals are about, we can do that. So as parents, as you're looking, you say, well, here's, we had there's a forensics camp that I've never heard of down in North Carolina. Somebody who's really interested in forensics. She emailed me and said, I want to go to this camp. Your family can't afford it. What can we do? Fit very much in with our science curriculum. So we're able to support her and send her off for a week at forensics camp. That's something that she's studying college now. So we're very willing and able to help with those things as much as our budget and our possibilities allow. So anytime you have maybe something like that on the radar, just feel free to contact me about that. Oh, yeah, last piece. So as you're going into this year, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, I do a lot of work with our member school districts on going out and talking to parents about skills for success in college. And I've done a lot of work with colleges, teaching adjunct for Mary Washington this coming year. I've done a lot of work with UVA over the last couple of years. And I often talk to the professors that we work with, what do you need to see from our students when they get there? That's a part of what defines our curriculum as well. So a few things that we've kind of gleaned from both research and what they have told us is these are some of the things that are going to make students really successful at college level. First of all, and this is a big piece, is what kind of goals do they have? A lot of our students are very grade oriented. That's fine. They want to get high scores in their SOLs. They want to get A's. They want to get high scores in their SATs. They want to get accepted into UVA or Duke University or whatever. That's great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what the science shows is that if a student who has a learning goal, what are you going to do with what you are learning? Then they will be much more successful. The example for that, if they go into a Spanish class, their goal is to get an A in Spanish, they'll do okay. But if their goal is to be able to speak Spanish when they walk into a cafe in Madrid, they're going to do much better with that topic, because it gives it a different mindset about why you're learning and what you're learning. So that's a big one. And that's one where I think parents can help students to define. Routines for homework. Every situation, I work with a lot of students. When a student has a problem academically with our program, I work a lot of times with parents and students. Almost always find that one of the issues is that students are running into issues when they're playing video games, or they're not, their study situation is not well defined. And that's one thing that I've seen work very well for students who are struggling, is get into a regular routine, time, place, and what you're going to do when you're studying. Specifically, one of those things is study without the TV or the cell phone, because the research says there is no such thing as multitasking. When you're multitasking, when you have several stimulus going on, your brain is going click, 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 and it actually will drop your IQ anywhere from 20 minutes. So while you're doing it, you won't be able to learn or remember. So again, that routine piece. The way you can do that, for those of you who are addicted to TV and cell phones, is you can study for 20 minutes and then reward yourself with 10 minutes of TV or cell phone. Do something like that. There's a whole great set of techniques that are built around short bursts of studying with little breaks built in and things like that, versus trying to do both at one time. And I'm not making this stuff up because you can I'm really not making this stuff up. This is a lot of it. Everything that we talk about with college skills is research based. One of the things I talk with students about this is any interaction you can do with reading. There's a lot of reading that takes place in all high level courses in high school is interactive. Don't just read and say, okay, I got it. Ask questions, write down the most important facts, take notes, paraphrase, anything like that really helps. This is one we work a lot with students on, using calendars. We use Google Calendar because everything we do is based on Gmail and Google. We will be using that a lot on our projects and things. We have calendars we run with programs. Getting students into that is really helpful. You use something like that, you can actually have it email you with reminders, and that helps a lot. I mentioned one of the things that's going to happen here, and not necessarily in Blue Ridge classes, but in high school, students will come up against academic challenges that will be different than they have experienced. And I can tell you from years and years of work in this program, and as a regular high school principal and other roles, I've seen students kind of approach this in two different ways. They run up against the problem, and they stop, and they wait for somebody to show up and bail them out, where they figure out how to get around or over or through it. And the student who figures out how to get around or over or through it is going to be much more successful down the road. We can help them with it. We want to support students with that. But developing that skill, particularly when you run into difficulties, is huge for being able to be successful. And that part of that is also making sure the students are responsible for academic success. One of the things you'll see this when you get the handbook, we have a grade appeal process. So here's what sometimes will happen. The student gets a grade, take it home, parent calls me. What we say is the student needs to talk with the teacher first. They need to start with that, because when you go up to college, you can't call mom or dad. It's not going to happen. The professor's not going to talk. We even have with the college classes that we bring in, professors won't talk to parents. Even though it's a high school course being taught in high school. They'll talk to me, and I can talk to parents, but they're not going to talk directly to parents. We're trying to get the students to figure out how to be their best advocates, communicate first. Sometimes that doesn't solve it. Then parents and that teacher can interact, and they can interact. I think that's not to put things off, but it's to make sure that that's happening, that the first level of response to that student for their own issues, their success. So that's kind of the overview. Again, there's a lot to this, and as we work together in the next several years in Blue Ridge, I'm always open to questions, suggestions about, if your child is running into some issues, if you have some concerns, or you want to know about more opportunities. I get a lot of emails from parents, and I'm happy to do that, because we are here to serve you and your students, and we want to make this work as well as possible, because we know there's there's a lot to it. So that's kind of everything I had to say about just sort of general Blue Ridge stuff. Kind of questions do y'all have about the upcoming year about Blue Ridge? Yes. We do research papers. We do very specific, not, I mean, an essay, and I specifically kind of denote that because there is a lot of essay writing in schools because that's what's tested at the SOL level. Is more essay and expository, but what we get into is very specific, like historical research. We do scientific papers, which is a little bit different. And then, so yeah, but we have a very, one of the things that we do is we have a strong skills curriculum. So we just sat down a couple of weeks ago and went through what happens in ninth grade with writing and research. So we take that, we kind of, in ninth grade, their first project will have a writing component, and we teach them everything from the note-taking part to how to organize it ahead of time, and then how to write through that. And they will see that mirrored again and again through their time in the program. They are absolutely able to. We've got a poster somewhere that says, if you think the only thing you can do in Blue Ridge is study, we have students who are, we had how many athletes we have on last D1 school. We've got athletics, band, drama. So we've.
I mean, it might take culinary arts every semester, every year. I will probably.
That's not going to happen.
Not going to happen, but there's tons of room for them to be able to get into other classes.
Yeah, lots of our students are doing it. Interesting, and that's where a lot of our students end up pursuing a lot, like their senior internships. What else?
I'm the technology person at our school. Just so you know, your student was given a password and an email account for our specific Google app. I know most of them probably have a Google app email account for their schools. They also have one for us that we monitor. You can go in it at any time and make sure that they're staying professional and academic. We really stress with their email, everything they send, whether it's a chat message or an email or a document, has to be both professional and academic in nature, and we do spot check them. So we don't give them warning. We will just go into their account and read through all their stuff, make sure they're staying academic and professional, and then anything we find we'll discuss with them to make sure that they really understand that we really email, and that this would be like a professional or work email, and how you work in that environment. Also, if they tell you they need a really expensive computer for governor's school, they don't. In every one of our teachers' classrooms, there are Chromebook cards, typically, the Bridge Kitchen, they're in there, and all of our courses can be done on a Chromebook, so if they really feel like they need a computer at home, I'm happy to recommend some models, and there are fantastic Chromebooks under $400 that can do all their work for us on. Also, we have a loaner program. If your computer at home breaks or you're going on a trip or they just need access to a computer at home, we have loaners that they can check out. Parents do need to sign off so they know a computer is coming home. But we can send them home with a computer, for a short term or a long term or whatever it takes that they have all their needs met.
Last call for questions. Think of something on the way home, you can always reach me by email or something. All that's on our website. Thank you so much for coming, and we are really looking forward to working with you all. Have a good rest of your summer.